The first thing that you should do, if it's a credible offer, is to recognize that you have a fiduciary responsibility to present that offer to your board to get their input. If you do want to entertain the offer, there are a couple of pitfalls that you should avoid. The first is calling up all of your friends and telling everyone that you received the offer. It's best right now to play your cards close to the chest and make sure that you give the impression that you're not for sale. Conversely, the biggest mistake that you can make is telling everyone that you are for sale and seeing if they're interested. That kind of messaging, broad outreach, is detrimental to your ultimate exit value. Another pitfall would be to share too much information during the early stages. These LOIs will typically come with some sort of due diligence list. Sometimes they can be very, very long. What you want to do is provide only the bare minimum to signal that you are serious about the conversation and no more. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but I think principally you should always operate under the assumption that this acquisition will not be consummated. Step two is, once you've decided to entertain the LOI, you need to decide whether to bring in more parties into the process. And that should be a really selected and focused list. It should be a pure list that makes sense for whatever your future dream of the company is. And it shouldn't be kind of the broad universe of anybody who might have the firepower to buy you. The critical attribute of a well-run process is that it's concentrated, it's very focused, and it's time-bound. You need to meet with your internal team and set a time expectation for when you want the process to end. You might not meet that, but by setting that expectation up front, you're not only communicating to your team that they shouldn't be distracted, but you're also communicating to potential buyers that this isn't your number one first priority. It's operating the business first, selling or exiting the company second. And then the final step, I would say, is that once you are negotiating final terms, make sure that you're negotiating terms that are beneficial to everyone. I think the best founders recognize that the way that they make money is by owning a piece of a growing pie rather than owning more of the pie. A lot of talks get derailed at the last minute when founders overplay their hand a little bit. Perhaps they want more than what the buyers think they're worth, or they try to force the process into a tighter time frame that is truly appropriate. When an offer comes out of the blue, you need to view that with a little bit of a suspicion. I've seen times where an offer has come on the table from a competitor, and ultimately those offers ended up being kind of intelligence offers, like attempts from competitors to learn about your company. There you need to be hypersensitive and alert. Just don't be naive to the fact that competitors might use LOIs as a hunting, gathering, intelligence expedition rather than a legitimate offer to buy your company. The strongest indications that an offer is legitimate and credible is when you've been in the conversation with that buyer for a long period of time and are negotiating perhaps a commercial agreement or a joint effort of some form, where suddenly the buyer realizes that having you wholesale in-house might be more beneficial from an integration perspective. Those offers are often very credible, and especially if they have a history of M&A, that's an offer that you should take very seriously.